Gasparini, and welcome to this segment of One on One. I'm joined today by Steve Penna, who is the owner and publisher of Spectrum magazine. Steve, welcome.
Thanks.
I'm going to have to behave today because if I say anything I'm not allowed to say, I know it's going to end up in one of your columns. So I'm going to play it straight and narrow with you on this one.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm so excited, and I'm actually honored that you're here on the show with us. You are a great example of volunteering in our community. So people might think that we're going to talk about the Spectrum magazine today, but we really aren't. We're actually going to talk about you as a community member and what has inspired you to give so much of your personal life and professional life back to your community. And hopefully at the end of the day, we've inspired a couple more people to join you because it's easy and fun, and it's been a great thing. So that's where we want to start out. I mean, volunteering, I mean, where did it come? Is it in your DNA? Is it in your blood? Do we take blood and find out, oh my gosh, he's got the volunteering gene? Because you're everywhere.
Well, I think what happened was, in our age generation with having the parents that we had, they were raised under, let's say, one of the Kennedy administrations, John F. Kennedy, who was very big on volunteerism. So I think that from a young age, I was always taught, no matter where you are, what you're doing, you can always give back in some way to your community. So I can remember in 6th grade going on trips to Sonoma State Hospital to go on Christmas, deliver Christmas presents to mentally ill patients, you know, things like that. And then just kind of
that was with your family. Your parents were just big proponents of...
Yeah, and then school organization too. And then in high school, you just kind of get involved with student government, and you start doing your car washes, and you start doing your community outreach there. And then after high school, you kind of, you know, if you go away to college and you come back, it kind of sets the bar for, I think, where your volunteerism is going to go to.
And you've always been one through not only Spectrum magazine, but saying, you know, we have a right to voice our opinion, but then we have an obligation to do something about it.
Correct.
Right? And part of that is through volunteering. It's, you know, it's great to sit and complain about our parks that perhaps they're not kept or maintained, or they don't have the latest in equipment. It would then be another thing to go and organize a neighborhood group to do a park restoration, or to do weed pulling or planting, or, you know, plant planting. So tell us a little bit about how you sort of use that community voice, but then turn it into action.
Well, for instance, you know, I'm a graduate of Sequoia High School, and I was never involved with theater, never involved in that component, but I was invited one time to go to a community meeting that was organized by somebody about the shape of Carrington Hall. And I don't know if it was planned or not, but I left that meeting being the chairman of the restoration efforts.
I guarantee you, being in fundraising and planning, it was planned, and you just didn't know it. I have a feeling,
yeah. And, you know, move a year later after that meeting, you know, we galvanized the community. We raised $11.5 million to restore the facility, and now it's a top-notch, you know, performing arts center for not only Redwood City, but for San Mateo County. And those type of efforts, you know, you see people that have a love for the environment, and they see in Redwood City, you know, we're known as Tree City, USA. Right. So they want to go out and they want to plant. Well, they know that, you know, the city can't always take that responsibility. So people organize an organization called City Trees, and that's a phenomenal organization. They go to people's houses, they go to public facilities, and they plant trees and prune them and take care of them. You know, so it's just identifying what you're interested in. You know, right now I'm interested in youth. I've gone through phases where I'm really strong on organizing and directing programs for youth, and then you go to something else and you just kind of give your time somewhere else. Right now I'm back on, you know, working with youth, organizing programs for at-risk kids in Redwood City, and also working with the SAL program too, to kind of do some cross programs, because they're in Redwood City too, and then PAL's right with them, so we're trying to do some things together. So it's just focusing on what your interests are. You see a need, and I really feel that if you see a need, you need to come to a conclusion and help.
We get the community responsibility. I mean, Jeff Iyer, our former mayor and current city council member of Redwood City, I mean, his whole premise during the budget crisis for the city of Redwood City was, this is the time that we need you to volunteer. We need you to come and help us with city services. We need you to come and help us fill some of the gaps. he was a huge proponent of getting involved in your community. You have the passion. I don't have the time. How do I get over that hurdle thinking that I have to give 5 hours every week, every month? Talk me through that part.
How do you get over the fear?
Yeah, that if I'm going to volunteer, it has to be for 5 years and it has to be 20 hours a week.
Yeah, I think that what you have to look at is you find out what your passion is, and you can actually do volunteerism on any level you want to. You can do it for an hour a week, you can do it for an hour a day, but you have to find the right program that you can do things. You can go in and you can stuff envelopes for an hour.
Right.
That's helping out. That's a vital service. Or you can go in and you can, take over one of the programs and do some instructions. It just depends on what your passion is. And I talk to a lot of people who say, I don't have the time. Well, you do have the time. It's just kind of like with working out.
Right.
I don't have the time. Well, you make the time if that's a priority.
Right.
So you really have to make a time to give back to your community.
Right.
You just have to.
So, and I've actually seen you as an example where your birthday instead of receiving birthday presents, you said I want to have a community event. So we're going to have a community celebration, and if you'd like, make donations to these 3 youth serving organizations. So
Exactly.
we really sort of made volunteering and giving back a fun celebratory thing, which I think is going to help our communities immensely as well. And so I like your idea about sort of finding what your passion is. Then getting over the hurdle that it has to be something that's, equal to your work life. And it could actually be a fun family event where you took the kids and you planted trees for a day.
Correct. And, you just sparked a thought in my mind. When I first started volunteering with the CASA program, with the Child Advocates of San Mateo County, and that's a big responsibility because you're basically taking over, helping one-on-one a very at-risk kid. And you can go into that and you can say, okay, I'm going to, meet with this kid and I'm going to get involved with him for hours upon hours of a week, or you can just set your tone for 2 hours a day or 4 hours a week or what have you. But the more you give, I think the better you feel about it.
Right. Yeah. And I know, is there a place where people can go and sort of find out about volunteer opportunities? Or do you just kind of sort of look to your city and say what's out there?
Well, the 2 things. Each city in the peninsula and the county of San Mateo have pages where you can research what nonprofit groups are out there. We feel, in my duties as a Spectrum magazine, we feel it's a responsibility for us as a media outlet to get that information out to our readership. So we publicize all the nonprofit groups in Redwood City and how to get involved with those every other month.
Got it.
So that gives people the opportunity to look over all the things that Redwood City offers and then say, where do I want to get involved?
Right.
And then also a quick Google search.
Right. Well, and that's important because you might want to put, what are youth serving organizations in San Mateo County? And then you can start reading a little bit about them and say, I'd love to do reading for a day at the Boys and Girls Club, or I'd like to be a mentor at PAL in Redwood City, the Police Activities League in Redwood City. We just have a minute left. So I know community theater is one of your passions. You talked about Carrington Hall, and I understand that you have a new role that we're going to have to be calling you Edna pretty soon. Tell us about that.
I thought I wanted to do something outside of my box, so I auditioned for the Redwood City Community Theater Group's summer production of Hairspray. And after a series of callbacks, which I didn't even know what a callback was, I was cast as Edna, who is the John Travolta role in the movie. So it's a big stretch, but I'm not having fun yet, but I'm going to have fun.
You're going to have fun.
Yeah.
So talk about volunteerism at its best. So Steve, we're out of time, but I want to thank you so much for being not only a great community supporter, but a great advocate for volunteerism in your community, and we all want to follow in your footsteps. Thank you for joining us, and thanks all of you for joining us. We'll see you next time on One on One.